The incoming Trump administration is reportedly determined to prosecute Dr. Anthony Fauci and send the billionaire eugenicist Bill Gates to Guantanamo Bay on charges of crimes against humanity. According to a Trump transition team insider, this legally complex plan involves stripping Gates of his US citizenship and designating him as an enemy combatant, allegedly for crimes committed against America on behalf of the globalist elite. With emerging claims that Gates may be directly tied to over 1 million American deaths, these extraordinary measures are said to be a central part of Trump's mission to not only make America great again, but to make it healthy and just once more. Before we dive in, join the People's Voice Locals community if you haven't already, and sign up to become a member of the world's first ever cyber nation that truly believes in life, liberty, and the pursuit of your dreams. Visit joson.com and click the Join Us button today. It's completely free. Just a few years ago, the elite was celebrating what they believed to be their so-called final solution for humanity, the COVID mRNA vaccine. Their plan? To inject every single person on Earth multiple times over and over for decades to come.
We made it!
I love you! We have a successful vaccine! The efficacy was more than 90%.
Oh my God!
Resulted in a success. And this success looks like the biggest scientific breakthrough of the last 100 years.
Now, Gates and Burla are facing trial in the Netherlands for their role in the COVID pandemic and lying to the masses about the deadly consequences of the COVID mRNA vaccines. According to a key member of the Trump transition team, the Dutch court better move quickly if they want to convict Bill Gates, because he's slated to be shackled and sent to Guantanamo Bay to face charges of crimes against humanity. According to the transition team, Gates must be tried for his crimes because they are unprecedented in the history of the world. The COVID vaccination campaign is the first one in history to result in excess deaths going up rather than down. Following the vaccine rollout in the United States, excess deaths were up 40%, mostly among working-age people. To put these numbers into context, life insurance executive Scott Davison, CEO of insurance giant One America, said in January 2022, just to give you an idea of how bad that is, a 3 sigma, or 1 in 200 year catastrophe, would be 10% increase over pre-pandemic. So 40% is just unheard of. The figure of over 1 million US excess deaths since the vaccine rollout is corroborated by former Wall Street BlackRock investment analyst Edward Dowd. The fact that COVID vaccines contributed significantly to these excess deaths is no longer in question, but is studiously ignored, suppressed, and gaslighted in the mainstream media. Less known, but just as important, is the extensive money trail left by one key player, with tentacles throughout government, media, and the medical and science establishments, of which Richard Horton, longtime chief editor of The Lancet, wrote in 2015, much of the scientific literature, perhaps half, may simply be untrue, and is afflicted with flagrant conflicts of interest. That key player is Bill Gates, who has uncanny connections to all the key elements of the COVID pandemic. Among these are direct funding, as the announcements of COVID deaths began in March and April of 2020, of the British professor who authored non-peer-reviewed Report 9, as it is known, which was cited by governments around the world to justify unprecedented lockdown policies, which imprison people in their own homes. Direct funding of rigged WHO solidarity trials of hydroxychloroquine as a remedy for COVID, which administered possibly lethal doses of HCQ to test subjects in order to predictably arrive at the conclusion that it was not a good remedy, contrary to myriad other science which showed the opposite. Funding and helping to organise, through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, simulation exercises for pandemic outbreaks of COVID, bird flu and monkeypox, all long before actual rises in cases were reported. Funding through the same centre at the UK's Imperial College where Report 9 lockdown paper was authored. The study endlessly cited in the media, which holds that 20 million lives have been saved by the COVID vaccines, a figure called nonsense by University of Ottawa professor Dennis Rancourt. Bill Gates' funding is also behind an organisation which attacked the medical licences of doctors who challenged the official narrative that there was no effective treatment for COVID until a vaccine was found, and various fact-checking websites which misrepresented and attacked any studies or scientists who disagreed with the official COVID narrative. All while funding such fraudulent science, Gates helped set into motion the fake news that the COVID vaccine stopped the transmission of COVID from person to person, making it imperative for responsible people, even those not at risk, to get the shots. As Bill Gates himself said, plain and simple, they didn't want you to have a choice.
But you don't have a choice. People act like you have a choice. People don't feel like going to the stadium when they might get infected. You know, it's not the government who's saying, okay, just ignore this disease. And, you know, people are deeply affected by seeing these deaths, by knowing they could be part of the transmission chain. And, you know, old people, their parents, their grandparents could be affected by this. And so you don't get to say, ignore what's going on here. There will be the ability, particularly in rich countries, to open up if things are done well over the next few months. But for the world at large, normalcy only returns when we've largely vaccinated the entire global population.
Never underestimate the depths of darkness that the elite are willing to plunge into to further their agenda to enslave the human race. Ever heard of SV40? Well, the COVID vaccines are contaminated with the stuff. Simian virus 40 is a polyoma virus that stimulates tumour growth. It's so powerful that scientists use it on lab rats to trigger tumours, allowing them to test chemotherapy treatments. But hey, don't worry, because the TV doctors, pundits and mainstream journalists are all insisting that SV40 is not responsible for the so-called turbo cancer explosion. Yes, the same people who are shaming you into getting the shot in the first place. This is pure evil hiding in plain sight, as Professor Angus Dalgleish explains.
It's obvious talking to everybody and all the presentations I've been to. I was in Australia, and since they've come back, and that magnificent that Perth conference with the debate with the Premier of Western Australia and the head of the medicine there, who didn't turn up to the debate, and which I thought was a very funny thing. But they got all the evidence that the messenger RNA vaccines they're all completely contaminated. They are just not fit for purpose. The Pfizers are all full of SV40. SV40 was what, in my day, we put into mice to make them grow tumours so we could pour chemotherapy into them to see if it worked for the tumours. And we're putting this into humans for a disease that hasn't killed anybody for at least 2 years. It is beyond belief. And that's really what I cannot understand. Now, today, I got sent something from Australia, which I must say it's the closest I have to being holding my stomach and being sick. It was a race of Morrison, the Prime Minister, doing a deal with Moderna for messenger RNA vaccines for the next 10 years, that you will buy 2 billion Australian dollars of these vaccines off the next 10 years, and they will target all sorts of diseases, and they will be given to children. This is a gene therapy that they didn't. How much were they bribed to do that? Because I must say, if I was given $1 billion to do this, and it meant it going into children, I would walk away even if it was 10 billion. To me, it's beyond belief that you could even consider it. These people behind Moderna and Pfizer are just pure evil, and they must be held to account.
Tell me again about the safety testing and risk assessment. Oh wait, there was none. Step forward Dr. Anthony Fauci, whose head is also on the chopping block, and many would argue, rightly so. We've got the details after this important word from our sponsor. Today's sponsor is pillsforever.com. If you think Big Pharma have your best interests at heart, think again. Under Biden, the price of medicine in America has skyrocketed, and there are certain medicines Big Pharma don't want you to know about. That's why I've partnered with pillsforever.com. All of their FDA-approved medicines are the cheapest you'll find anywhere. More importantly, you can order medicines that Big Pharma don't want you to have, such as ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and fenbendazole. Speaking of fenbendazole, not only does it get rid of parasites that live inside your body, there have been studies that show fenbendazole can help with cancer. Listen to this testimony of Joe Tippins, a cancer survivor thanks to fenbendazole.
2 years ago, Joe Tippin says he was told to go home, call hospice, and say his goodbyes. The doctors were unanimous. He was going to die of small cell lung cancer.
Once that kind of cancer goes that far afield, the odds of survival are less than 1%, and the median life expectancy is 3 months.
Tippin says he got a tip, not from a pharmacist, but a veterinarian. And in his desperation, he turned from people medicine to dog medicine. Specifically, fenbendazole.
My insurance company spent $1.2 million on me with traditional means before I switched to a $5 a week medicine that actually saved me.
Get 15% off using coupon code People's Voice at the checkouts. Please click the link below this video or call 256-664-4170 to take advantage of this fantastic offer. Dr. Anthony Fauci is campaigning for a preemptive pardon from Joe Biden for any potential crimes he may have committed over the course of his lengthy career. And honestly, it should come as no surprise. Over the years, the modern-day Dr. Mengele has repeatedly slipped up, making a series of shocking admissions that revealed glimpses of his true agenda.
The slides how this disease, which we surmised early on, started off in the male homosexual population in this country. It was very simple. It's straightforward epidemiology. You take an infectious agent and you introduce it into a population in which the spread among those individuals, if it's sexual contact spread, it's a perfect setup to spread. In any event, what we had was a concentration of cases, as you'll see here, in the New York metropolitan area, New York City and New Jersey, and in Los Angeles. Take an infectious agent and you introduce it into a population. You take an infectious agent and you introduce it into a population.
For decades, the elite have been working hand in hand with figures like Fauci to introduce infectious agents and their so-called cures to the world. But the people are waking up. We're no longer falling for their lies, their manipulation, or their schemes. Big changes are coming. Brace yourself.
Are presenting themselves to medical professionals as an arbiter of truth and as a neutral referee and a reliable referee of the truth. And they know that those medical professionals are relying on journal articles to treat patients, and that if they tell a lie, if they're committing fraud, that they can injure and kill people. So, I believe they can be prosecuted, and not only can they be prosecuted for those injuries, but they can be prosecuted on the racketeering statutes or promoting fraud. So I'm going to do that as soon as I get in there.
In a shocking revelation out of Slovenia, a whistleblower nurse has come forward with alarming claims about the COVID-19 vaccine program. According to Slovenian media reports, the head nurse at the University Medical Center in Ljubljana, responsible for receiving and distributing vaccines, has accused the program of secretly administering what she describes as death jabs. At a press conference, she presented vials with coded labels, each marked with a 1, 2 or 3, and explained their chilling significance.
To cepivo, ki ga sedaj uporabljajo, oziroma ljudje, ki se cepijo z njimi, od tega cepiva je 30% placebe. Tako da vi ne veste, a ste dobili placebo, tako da ne boste sigurni, da ste dobili Johnsona, da ne boste slučajno sigurni, da ste dobili AstraZeneca, a ne? Tudi če rečete za stekleničko, lahko vam pa nesejo tisto, ki se vi želite, a ne? Ni pa rečeno, da ste s tisto cepljeni. Se ne dogaja to povsod, ampak tako, kakor jaz dobivam informacije od kolegic iz Slovenije, se tudi to dogaja. Zato so pa tudi zdaj začela, ne? Zdaj, če si s tem cepljen, si lahko z drugim in tako naprej, a ne? Samo nikoli ne boste vedeli, kaj boste dobili. Je pa razlika, zdaj ne vem, če kdo tu cepljen, v glavnem tisti, ki dobi tisti kartonček in ki dobi gor nalepko, ne, so številke 1, 2, 3. Tisti, ki dobi placebo, zapomnite si, je gor samo številka 1. Ni 2 in ni 3. Ja? Tako da boste vedeli, da toliko je. Je pa tako, da... Prosim?
Oni vejo, komu dajo placebo.
Oni vejo, vi pa ne veste, od danes naprej veste. Oni so računali, da nas bojo spravili, da se bomo vsi cepili.
The elite have been deceiving us and plotting against us for generations. But enough is enough. It's time to take a stand. Big Pharma has been one of the biggest scams in history, designed to exploit consumers and undermine public health since the Rockefellers first laid its foundation. Dr. Judy Mikovits explains what she and key members of the transition team think it will take to make America healthy again.
What would you do right now to make America healthy again?
It's simple. You end the Bayh-Dole Act. You repeal the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, making everybody liable again. You create absolutely independent science. You end the extramural slave program at all universities, which have skyrocketed the cost of education. When I went to university, it was $3,000, and the professors teach, not do research and pay it to Big Pharma and get more and more enslavement and grants. So you'd end the publication peer-reviewed system such as it is, and the ACIP, completely eliminate the CDC. He's already got eliminate the Department of Education. You bring back liability, and you take every one of the royalties from every single patent, and you give every American $1 million every quarter on every single package. It's their money. And then you don't have to worry about drug prices, folks. You can have all the money in the world. And then I believe what Trump will do and Kennedy will do is give us $1,000 a month tax-free in our health savings account. And then we bring back every one of these natural products that are according to God.
Here at The People's Voice, we're determined to continue exposing the elites, but we need your help. Subscribe to the channel on Rumble and join the People's Voice Locals community to join our amazing team and gain access to exclusive and uncensored content. I hope to see you there. Today's video is brought to you by IPv6ers. Are you a content creator who wants to publish information online without Big Brother spying and censoring your every move? IPv6ers is set to revolutionize the way information is disseminated on the internet by eliminating the need for big tech companies to provide unreliable, overpriced services such as self-hosting, email, and data management. IPv6ers enables an easy and accessible way for you to host your own web and email server with direct end-to-end connections and enhanced security. This means no snooping from Big Brother and no interference from the technocratic elite. If Hillary Clinton can get away with running her own server, why shouldn't you? Go to thepeoplesvoice.tv/IPv6 to sign up, or click the link below this video to take back control of the internet and win the info wars against the globalists. If you like our content, help support our sponsor IPv6ers and go to thepeoplesvoice.tv/IPv6 today. Thank you IPv6ers for making this video possible.